Jerry Bonkowski to win his first race this year?
If I knew the answer to that question, I would have been hired by Stewart Haas Racing about 10 races ago. But, it's just one of those things where, we've said it, or I've said it many, many times, and it's very true that drag racing, that's good. I'm writing a drag racing.
Yeah, I make Freudian slips myself, so don't worry about it.
Exactly. In NASCAR racing, or for that matter, all motorsports are very cyclical in nature. I mean, you can win 8 races last year and not win a race up until Sunday this year. That was the case with Kevin Harvick, and he finally broke through with that, that win that was a long time in coming. And I'll say this, not only was it huge for Harvick and Stewart Haas Racing, I think it also kind of set down a warning, if you will, to the other NASCAR Monster Energy NASCAR Cup teams out there, because if Harvick wins, usually so goes Clint Boyer, Eric Almirola, and Daniel Suarez as teammates. So I'm not going to be surprised if you start seeing SHR go on a huge win streak and potentially get 3, 4, maybe 5 wins over these the next 8 races or so. I think that now that Harvick's broken through, his teammates are going to want to get into the fun, as will Harvick want to continue the winning as well.
Well, now I guess that we look at this. I was impressed with this. Hamlin was using his backup car, and he still led 113 laps. Do you think that might have been a factor, and could that have been, a 0.21 of a second, which was ultimately the determination of victory? Could that have been the backup car the reason for Harvick's victory? I hate to diminish it, but I mean, I'm just asking here.
Well, a lot of times in motorsports, including NASCAR, the backup cars, invariably, when teams go to them, wind up being better than the primary cars they brought with them. So, Not really that much of a surprise. In fact, I found this interesting yesterday, even though yesterday was vacation day for me. Obviously, I still keep track of what's going on.
Sure.
And I was actually surprised that not only was he driving a backup car, so was Alex Bowman, who was actually driving Jimmy Johnson's backup car. That tells me a lot. And then I think there was one other driver that was driving, I want to say Chase Elliott. There was somebody else out there that was driving a backup car as well, too. So, certain tracks, your backup car, may be better than your primary. And let's look at it this way, too. The primary and secondary car, or primary and backup cars, rather, that teams bring with them to every racetrack, usually there is such a minuscule difference in how well they're prepared that, if you lose your primary, you still have a lot of faith and confidence in your secondary car, your backup car, and that's what they had yesterday, and the end results speak for themselves.
We're talking to Jerry Bonkowski, NBCSports.com. You mentioned Byron in the backup car. Actually, that was the top finishing Chevy. Only 12th place overall, as a matter of fact, after Chevy had really had a very nice run in the Cup Series. But let me ask you this. I think another reason Harvick, this is his second straight victory in New Hampshire. Could one of the reasons why Harvick was on something of a drought be they took a race away from the Lobster Bisque track, if you will, and moved it to the bright lights of Las Vegas? I mean, could that be a reason why Harvick, he didn't have his favorite track to run at?
No, I don't think it really was a situation. I mean, New Hampshire is a great racetrack. I've been there a number of times. It's not only the racing in the Northeast, some of the best you're going to find anywhere in this country. And I know that's a big statement, but it is very true.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of diehard fans up in the Northwest, Northeast rather. But unfortunately, the size of the racetrack is somewhat limited in terms of the attendance that can get in there. And Las Vegas is a much bigger facility, and you've got, obviously, Las Vegas right in your backyard. You got a lot of draw from other areas, whereas with New Hampshire, you've got Boston, which is about, maybe 80 miles or so south of there. And then you've got a lot of fans coming over from Canada across the border, but really can't match the not only for Kevin Harvick, but also for New Hampshire Motor Speedway, once again proving that it is indeed the Magic Mountain.
Yeah, I mean, like it was one of the more entertaining races. I mean, with the finish, I think we've had in recent times. I mean, last year I remember it seemed like every race. You know, we talked about the Chicagoland race a lot, and Chicagoland wasn't thought of as that exciting of a track. Another 1.5 mile, but the finish was for the ages. And the same thing here, the bumping, the grinding. I think the quote was from Harvick: "We're either going to leave a tow truck on the field, listen to me, on the track, or get the checkered flag," something along those lines. So I mean, that shows you the intensity in the final lap right there. That was a very enjoyable race to watch there up in New Hampshire, unquestionably. Hey, one thing I do want to ask you, though, is that there was tragedy this weekend. Nick Harrison, who's crew chief, died overnight after the Xfinity Series race. What can you tell us about Nick Harrison? How well did you know him? And I mean, whenever something like this happens, it's a shock. But they gave him a moment of silence. But what can you tell us about Nick Harrison?
Honestly, I don't really know much about that at all. I'm actually looking it up real fast right now here. They're saying the cause of death is unknown. He's 37 years old only. He was the crew chief for Justin Haley, who just won a couple of weeks ago in that Cup race. This is actually coming as a surprise. I did not know about this. And, it looks like he's a Nashville area native. He's, let's see here, he was crew chief for Stephen Martin, who is Sterling Marlin's father. So, I mean, Stephen Marlin is the son of Sterling Marlin. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
But, no, I don't know. They're still saying that it's a cause of death is unknown. I'm actually looking at the Tennessee newspaper right now down in your neck of the woods.
Yeah.
And they're just, it's a state of shock. I mean, whenever you lose anyone, especially someone who's young, like, a 37-year-old man like him, and, was really starting to make his mark in the sport. I mean, he already had made his mark, but he was, getting more well-known in that. And, to see something like this happen, it just makes life all that more precious.
Yeah. I mean, 37, that's
never know when a guy will be here one day and not here the next day. That kind of thing.
But you mentioned that Harrison was Haley's crew chief, and now that Haley, I realize that Haley is a young up-and-comer, hardly someone that you would normally compare to Kevin Harvick, but these are guys that won their first race of the season, and maybe there were certainly doubters that a 500-1 shot could win a race, even if it was rain delayed in Daytona, and for that matter, I'm sure that Harvick had his critics as well. Do you think that, as we go into the final races before the playoffs, that we could see more first-time winners, that we could see some monkey wrench guys that maybe might make, the playoffs something more exciting than, let's say, 4 guys can win it, even though we're inviting 16 into it. Could you see more first-time winners the rest of the year?
Yeah, I actually, I said this a couple of weeks ago, I think that, we probably still can see maybe as many as 3 or even 4 first-time winners for the season. I mean, Harvick obviously checked that box off yesterday, but I think there's still a lot of guys out there. I've been holding true to my form that I think Jimmy Johnson will finally break his, what is it now, 70, I want to say 79 wins, 79 race win list, something like that.
Yeah.
7-time champion and has not won since in almost, it's in essence, 3 years, 2017. So, over 2 years, I guess is probably a better way of saying it, 2.5 years. But, I think that we definitely get to see some guys win this year that haven't won. I think that Eric Jones would be a good candidate in that category. Maybe a Daniel Suarez. Eric Almirola looked good yesterday for a long time race. So I think there's definitely a lot of guys that, and plus here's another thing too, Marky, to consider. We still got, 5 races, I think it is, left before the playoffs. You look at what's coming up, and the guys that are already in the playoffs, they don't want to jeopardize, their position in those playoffs. And I'm not saying they're going to take it easier, but they may not be as willing to take as much of a big risk as some of these guys who are hungry for that first win of 2019 rather, plus the ones that, are the same ones who want to make the playoffs. A win will essentially get them in the playoffs. So I think these next few races are going to be very difficult
Yeah, that's interesting to point out. I mean, I know that that was one of the ideas of the playoffs was that there would be more, gunning for victories and such instead of just, consistent finishes and all. But yeah, you mentioned the flip side of that argument as well here for the playoffs and such. Well, I will say that hold on. I will say that they are already counting down up in Bristol. You cross over State Street going into Tennessee, and they've already got the countdown of 26 days and an odd number of hours until the night race in Bristol. So they're whetting their appetite, I guess, for the final month of the regular season to be followed by the playoffs around here. And Pocono is next, certainly. But anyway, just what else should we know? What else are you working on here on NBCSports.com for this week?
Well, actually, as we just started talking, about 10 seconds ago, I just pushed the publish button on a story about Tommy Johnson Jr., who finally got that elusive win. It took him 35 years to finally win at Vandermeer Speedway in the NHRA class. He won the funny car race yesterday, or funny car class rather yesterday at Vandermeer Speedway outside of Denver. 35 years he made his first final round appearance as a 15-year-old. In Denver, and finally broke through yesterday. And I mean, this is such a great feel-good story. I'm really happy with what I just published now. It should be up on our Motorsports Talk site here momentarily. But I mean, it's such a feel-good story because, Johnson has spent 35 years looking for that first win in Denver. I mean, the 19th overall career win, but still, there's certain tracks that, you feel you want to avenge them, and he finally got that. And the best part about the feel-good story is that the name of his sponsor is Make-A-Wish, the
Sure.
charity. And so, I mean, he's been wishing and dreaming and hoping for a win for all these years, and Denver finally got it. So, great story that I really enjoyed writing, and hopefully the fans, when they get a chance to read it, will agree with this. It's, not so much that it's a good story, but it's the story itself about Johnson winning is the great story in and of itself.
So we will read about Tommy Johnson Jr. on NBCSports.com thanks to you, Jerry Bonkowski. And the next time you join us, we'll ask if Jimmy Johnson, maybe if his drought ends in Pocono or in August or whenever. It's Jerry Bonkowski. This is Tri-City Sports Now.